See, it is apparent that something happened in the heart of this woman. See, that EP just didn't add itself, but maybe she had just heard Jesus speaking, and she felt something on the inside of her that caused her to change her whole life around. She had lived. It was in the past now. What was Jesus talking about? Was it forgiveness? Perhaps she was sitting while Jesus was talking about forgiveness. And tears welled up in her eyes as she realized that God loved her, and that it may not be too late even for her. Maybe Jesus was speaking on redemption, and she heard that how God can take the broken pieces of her life and put them back together again. Maybe even me. But maybe it wasn't what he was talking about. Maybe Jesus gave her a look, and she hadn't been looked at in such a long time. See, when you get a reputation of ill repute, when you get a reputation of that woman, when you get the reputation of a sinner, folks don't look at you anymore. They look right on past you. They look right on past you, or they look at your past. You are no longer defined as a person, but you're defined as your actions. Jesus caught her eye. And through a simple eye contact, he communicated to her that she had value and she had worth. That no longer was she just a sinner, but she was a daughter. Whatever it was, it resonated in her heart, and she felt something deep. And now we find in her text, in this text, that she was desperate to get to Jesus. Desperate to get through Jesus, despite she knew what awaited her on the way there. Imagine the courage she must have had to have. She had to walk through those glares and those snares. Those same people had been talking about her, had lined this home, and they were still talking about her. Some even looked away. Oh no, not that woman. But she would not allow anybody to stop her because she needed to get to Jesus. Something happened on the inside of her, and she wanted to repay him as much as she could. But she knew that she couldn't repay him. But at least she could show her gratitude for what he had done in her life. She was focused, and she forgot everybody else a follower. She was desperate to express this love and affection. What she did was reckless, it was irresponsible, it was impulsive, it was inappropriate, but that's exactly the kind of followers Jesus wants. Folks that will do anything to get close to him. See, it was she broke customary laws, she broke unclean laws, but she had to get to Jesus. Picture the scene. It says Jesus was eating at the Pharisees' house. They didn't have chairs back then. They would recline on one arm most often with a pillow propping them up. Their feet would be behind him. Remember, the Simon did not offer a water basin for Jesus to clean his feet, so he had dirty feet. And now this woman comes behind Jesus with his dirty, filthy, stained feet from the dust and the dirt. And the text says that as she stood behind him, at his feet, weeping, she began to wet his feet with her tears. Then she wiped him with her hair, kissed him, and poured perfume. She starts getting closer to him. Despite all the naysayers, despite the folks talking about her, she gets close to him and she starts to lose control. She starts to lose control because sometimes you lose control before him because you remember how you had no control before him. Yes. She had been sold time and time again. Not to the highest bidder, but to any bidder. And sometimes we do the same thing. We are sold and we sell ourselves to bidders of no value. Relationships that are not of God, we sell ourselves to bidders of low and no value. Relationships that are not blessed by God, and then we enter into soul-time relationships, as it says that relationships with people that are outside the parameters of what God has had, and we cheapen God's special gift. We cheapen and counterfeit what God had only for marriage, because Jesus tells a parable about two men. One who owed 50 denarii and another who owed 500. A denarius was basically a week's salary. So one guy owed 50 weeks, another guy owed 500 weeks, so almost 2 years. And then he said, I forgave both of them. That debtor forgave both of them. She said, he asked Simon, Simon, which one loves more? He said, the one that was forgiven more, Jesus. I suppose, I guess. He really didn't want to answer because he knew that Jesus had him cornered. And then he says this. He then, verse 44, he then turns to the woman. While he's still talking to Simon, he told him about the parable, then he turns to the woman still talking to Simon. He says, do you see this woman? Nobody saw her for who she really was when she walked in. They saw the prostitute, they saw the woman being rebuked, they saw the sinner, but nobody saw her. So Jesus asked Simon, do you see this woman? Because Jesus didn't see what everybody else in the crowd saw. He saw someone whose heart had been changed. He saw someone who would come to him no matter what the cost. He saw somebody who others never thought of. A woman who knew the depth of her sin and also the depth of God's grace and his mercy. Yes. He saw someone who would also not spare any shame or service or humility to be by his side. Follow. And all the rest of you around are fans. Do you see this woman? This sinner is an example of my follower. It doesn't matter what your past is, what you've done. Man, I know we told some stories up in here. We can tell some stories up in here. God says, I don't care about any of that. I'll wipe it all away. See, it drops down to verse 47. It says, she loved much. That's a powerful statement, y'all. But don't get it twisted. Don't get it confused. She doesn't love much, and that got her salvation. Because then that would be worse. She loved because of what God had done for her. Yes. Man, if you would get honest for a minute, if you would get real, and you would acknowledge all of what God had forgiven you of. Sit down and think. Some of us think, well, I only owe 50 denarii. Somebody else owes 500. You're much farther away. But guess what? You're still separated from God. And that will get you eternal damnation, eternal separation. Some folks have went deeper in the streets than others. Some folks have went down low with that woman. Some that did things that could feel wrong. And others folks have been raised in church after that much. And good most of your life. But Jesus says it really doesn't matter because sin still separates you no matter what point you are in. You're in the same bucket. There's only two types of sinners. Those that know they are sinners and those that don't acknowledge that they are sinners. See, there's only two types of people. Those that acknowledge that I need God and the others think I need nothing. That's right. And Jesus says, Simon, you are a fan because you believe you need nothing. This woman, she finally knows that she is a sinner, that she is saved by grace, and now she has no holds barred. The question I want to ask you this morning, which of these two people are you more like? Are you like this Pharisee who thinks he has it all together, this Pharisee who thinks that they still don't stink, this Pharisee who thinks that they're better than somebody else, this Pharisee who only needs Jesus to be a friend with benefits? Or are you like this nameless woman? We don't get her name. See, this is Ron talking again, but I think we don't get her name because it can be our name. You might be that nameless man. You might be that sin that goes before you. That sin that people know you by. They don't know you by Christian. They don't know you by God follower. They don't know you by someone that is a follower. They don't even know you as a fan, but they know you out in the club. Get it. They know you around the way. They know you when you did your dirt. So how you like this woman who came to a realization that, God, I have found out it is not too late for me, and I don't want to be a fan. I don't want to play around with the phony. I don't want to stay in the shadow, but I want to be real with you. I want to yell at you. I want to know you like you know me. God, because I've been through it too much. When was the last time you poured yourself out before God? loud here because this is my worship. But when I feel God's presence, I normally don't say a word.